Salut et bienvenue, welcome to EBI30, the final one, looking at the passive voice. Now, if you're watching this, it's probably because your teacher has put this as an EBI and something that you need to do in your essays, or you've just done a lesson on the passive voice and you want a bit more guidance and a bit more revision for it to be re-explained to you. And if that is you in that boat, believe me, I've been there. Don't worry, after this video you'll be a bit more confident and hopefully you'll have a really good understanding about the passive voice, how to create it and how it's used. Now, it is tricky, the passive voice. It requires you to know a lot of grammar to be able to use it successfully. And the other thing is it isn't used as much in French as it is in English, but you will still need to use it potentially in translations. You'll certainly see it and in your set de bill and your Latin essays. I'm surprised at how much at A-level I use this as an EBI. So it really is something that we can work on and something you need to know. Let's see what we've got. Hello mes enfants, so if you're watching this, I imagine you have done a lesson on the passive voice before. So let's see what you know. Questions 1 to 4 here, or question 1 is a question and then 2, 3 and 4 are complete the sentence. Have a little look through, see if you can answer any of these. If you can't, it doesn't matter. We're going to work through each of these points one by one to see what you know and to see what you can do. Put me on pause, see if you can answer anything. At this point, I'd like to point out the extra challenge. This is a tough grammar point today. So what you might want to do as we're going through this video is make a revision poster about the passive voice and stick it up so you've got a thing to revise and something to work from. Put me on pause, see what you can answer here, and then we're going to go through the answers together. Alors mes petits, right guys, so question 1, when do we actually use the passive voice? Now the good news is it's very straightforward, and this is one of the only things I can think of in French where how we do it in English is how they do it in French, which is the good news. The bad news is that a voice is quite complex. You know what a tense is. It's a different time frame. We've even looked at moods together where you create a feeling. A voice is what it says it is. It's who's speaking and from what position you see a sentence. Now the passive voice is emphasizing the passive part of a sentence. Now that sounds confusing. Let me give you some examples. So usually when we use verbs, we use it in what's called the active voice, and that means the subject, that's the person doing the verb, carries the action of the verb. Nice example here, Mr. Ennis hit Molly. That's how we usually use verbs. I'm the subject here, Molly is the object, and the verb hit is what I'm doing. Mr. Ennis hit Molly. So I'm the subject, Molly's the object. This is how we usually use verbs. This is called the active voice, the normal way. But when you put something into the passive voice, I don't want to emphasize the subject. I want to emphasize the object. Now you do this all the time. Mr. Ennis hit Molly is fine, but you might want to emphasize the fact that Molly's been hit. So you won't believe what happened. What? Molly got hit by Mr. Ennis. And there we're emphasizing Molly being hit. So this is the passive voice. The emphasis in the sentence is placed on the receiver of the action rather than the person doing it. Molly isn't doing the hitting. I'm still doing the verb, and we've swapped it over. How have we done it? We've got our verb to be and we've put by. Now you do this all the time in English and you don't even realize you're doing it, but sometimes you do need to emphasize the receiver if it's more important. Say, oh my God, you won't believe it, Molly's been hit by a car. You'd never say that sentence, you won't believe what's happened, a car has hit Molly, because that's emphasizing the car too much. The thing that's important here, well maybe not if it's a nice car, but the thing that's more important is Molly, surely. So Molly was hit by a car, you're emphasizing the receiver. That's what the passive voice does. You emphasize the object. Let me give you a few more examples. This is active voice and we're going to change it to passive voice. So Mr. Ennis hates Hannah. That's active voice. Is me, I'm the subject, I'm doing the verb, and Hannah is the object of my hate. Switch it around, Hannah is hated by Mr. Ennis. This is exactly the same sentence, but this is passive, this is active. Everyone admires Mr. Ennis. True. So switch it around. Mr. Ennis is admired by everyone. Now, the emphasis is rightfully on me, the object of everyone's admiration. Mr. Ennis is admired by everyone. There we go. And then finally, everyone fears Mr. Hume. Everyone is being active. Mr. Hume is the passive object in this. Mr. Hume is feared by everyone is how we make it passive. Do you see how it goes? This is the English passive voice, and you can see it's simple. It's the same with French. So the take-home message, we use the passive voice when we want to put emphasis on the person receiving the verb rather than the thing doing the verb. Alors mes enfants, right guys, we've cracked question 1. When do you use the passive voice? Have a think. Is when we want to emphasize the receiver, not the subject. All right, so that's probably the hardest concept. The next bit's tricky just because you really need to know the verb être inside out in all the different tenses. So let's have a look at questions 2, 3 and 4. Alors, so how do you form it? It's exactly the same as English. He was hit. He is fed. He will be fed. They will be eaten. All you need to do is take our verb to be and put it into the correct tense, which is what I've got here. And here, my A-level students, you should know être this well. You should be able to put it into all of these tenses and conjugate it, even though it's always irregular. You should be able to do this. So all you do is take a verb être, and then how do you do it in English? Hate. He's hated. He's been hit. It was drank. What you need to do is the second verb needs to be in the past tense. It's our past participle. So how do you form a past participle? What does an ER verb change to? E with an accent. What does an IR verb change to? What does an RE verb change to? And then it's all the same irregulars as it usually is. Fait, vu, lu, bu, vu, lu, pris, été, pris, mis, du, vu, lu, etc. All of those irregulars in the past tense work with this. And that's all you need to do. All you need to use is être and then use the past participle. Let's work through 3 examples. Number 4 is going to introduce the final bit of our challenge. So, Mr. Ennis has been hit by a car. I feel bad for the car, it's going to be destroyed. So, I'd have Mr. Ennis a été frappé par une voiture. So, I need has been. So, he has been, past tense. And then I need my past participle, hit by a car. Mr. Ennis will be hit by a car. So now I need être in the future tense. So Mr. Ennis sera, and then frapper is the verb to hit. Put it into the past tense. Il sera frappé par une voiture. See what I've done? Imperfect tense. Mr. Ennis was hit by a car. Take the imperfect. Il était frappé par une voiture. Easy. And then finally, if Mr. Ennis était frappé par une voiture is Mr. Ennis hit by a car. If I change it for Karen, hooray, Karen was hit by a car. There's something that's changed. So it's exactly the same, but what's this about? Why have I added an extra E? When do we do that to verbs? When they're verbs of motion in the past tense, yeah? So motion verbs are Dr. Mrs. Van der Tramp verbs in the past tense. They need to agree. We add an E for feminine and S for plural. So why have I done it here? Frapper is not a motion verb. And if I want to say Karen was eaten by a car, Karen était mangée par une voiture, and I need the extra E on the end. Now, manger is definitely not a motion verb, so why am I putting it? Because anytime you use être, you need to agree if you're using a verb after it. Être makes it agree. So even verbs that aren't Van der Tramp verbs, even verbs that aren't the verbs of motion, they all need to agree in the passive tense. Always you add an E for feminine and an S for plural. Now that's the trickiest bit. Let's see how well you've been listening. Et voilà mes petits. So we've gone through everything now. Put me on pause. See if you can answer or complete these 4 sentences. Bon courage. Pause me now. Alors mes petits, right guys, let's see what you know. When do we use the passive voice? When we want to emphasize the receiver rather than the subject or the perpetrator of the verb. How do you form it? To form it, you need the verb être in the correct tense, and then you need a past participle. Elle est mangée, par exemple. As you're using être, the past participle must agree. So you add an E for feminine and S for plural. It's nothing to do with motion verbs or Dr. Mrs. Van der Tramp. It's because you're using être. that every verb you use in the passive has to agree, and that is the trickiest bit. Right guys, that's everything you need to know. Let's put you to the test. Et voilà mes petits, donc ici, j'ai 4 phrases en français. Ce qu'il faut faire. Maintenant, les verbes sont dans une phrase normale. Il faut changer la phrase. Il faut mettre la phrase dans la voix passive. Par exemple, numéro 1, j'ai mangé la pomme. I ate the apple. I need to swap it around to say the apple has been eaten by me if you want. So how are you going to do it? Let's go through our steps. So the apple has been eaten by me. Rather than j'ai mangé, I'm going to put la pomme at the start, and then a été has been, and then manger is la pomme. So I need an extra e on the end. La pomme a été mangée par moi. See what I've done there? I want you to do the same for 2, 3, and 4. Swap them around and see if you can put them into the passive voice. It's fine to look stuff up. You can even like reverse the video, rewind the video and watch bits if you're not sure. See what you can do. See if you can translate these phrases for me. Give yourself 3 minutes to do this. Bon courage, on y va. Alors mes enfants, right guys, if you listen to me now, you've had a go at these 4 sentences and you're ready for the answers. Let's see what we got. So we did the first one together. J'ai mangé la pomme. I ate the apple. I needed to change it around to say the apple has been eaten. And I'd say la pomme a été mangée. The apple has been eaten. Par moi, by me. Numéro 2 alors. Ils ont vendu les livres. Veut dire en anglais, they sold the books. So I need to say the books have been sold. It's masculine and it's plural. So when I think about sold in the past tense, I need to make sure it's got the S on the end. So let's put it all together. Ils ont vendu les livres. Change it to les livres. Voilà, les livres ont été vendus with that extra S on the end because it's a plural. Excellent effort if you got this. If you didn't, if you made a mistake, can you see where you've gone wrong? If you can't, go back and look at the video and see what you can work out. If you can, bon effort. Forgot to mention, I just want 2 today, including our example. If you've got 2, you pretty much crack this. Any more will be a bonus. And our last 2, a bit tougher now. Le vin is masculine and single. That's the easy bit. But here, boira. What tense is boire in here? The future tense. So Mr. Ennis boira le vin. Mr. Ennis will drink the wine. We want the wine will be drunk by Mr. Ennis. So that's how to switch it around. Put it into French. Le vin sera bu. The wine will be drunk. Voilà, see what I've done? And then finally, elles ont cassé les fenêtres veut dire they've broken the windows. So I want to emphasize the windows here, so we put them first. They're feminine and plural. So think about step 3, what we need to add for something feminine and plural. Let's move it around. So les fenêtres is the first bit. The windows have been broken is what I want to say. So I'd go les fenêtres ont été cassées with the extra E and the extra S because we're using être, we have to agree. If you got that, you've done really well. Guys, this is the passive voice. This is what you need to know for EBI30. It's a really tough EBI, so well done if you've had a go at this today. Alors, pour finir, right guys, just to finish off, make sure you can answer question 1, you can complete sentences 2, 3 and 4. There's 1 daily test to do after this in your daily test booklet. Keep watching the video and it'll explain what you need to do. This is a tricky EBI today. You've done really well to get to the end of this video. Bon effort mes petits, à la prochaine fois, au revoir. Your next step is your daily test. So your French teacher will have set you this for your homework. You've got your daily test booklet. Do not write in the booklet. What I want you to do, step 1 is in your pink books, copy out this box, copy out all the questions, copy out all the answers, and then copy out the blank test next to it. Then you're going to revise all the answers here. So you're going to spend your time learning this, make sure you master it. Once you've got it, this is what I want you to do. Cover up the answers, make sure you can't see them, and then in the blank test that you've copied out, take out your red pen, see if you can answer all of these questions and see if you can fill in any boxes. Then once you've done that, uncover this and look at what you've done and mark up your work. What have you got right? What have you got wrong? And then have a look. This is the ideal bit. Rinse and repeat. Go back to the start, revise the answers again, and then test yourself again, and then revise again, and then test again, and then mark again, and repeat until you've absolutely cracked it. And then if you've cracked it, say you started Monday and by Tuesday you know it off by heart, great. I bet you by Friday you will have forgotten it again. It's called a daily test because we want you to do it once every day, and the best students do this. Test yourself every day. If you can do it for 5 consecutive days in a row and get 100%, you've cracked it, you've got it, you've done it. So that is your homework for next time. Your extra challenge, guys, is to make a revision poster on this. So why don't you watch the video again, pause it, make a poster, make it look amazing, stick it up in your room or show it to your French teacher, show to make sure you've mastered this. This is EBI7. It is so important. Hopefully now you're happy and you can crack it. Thank you for watching. À bientôt. Au revoir.